Well, hi everyone, welcome. Today we're starting a fantastic series called Literary Legends. And the book that inspired me to start such a fantastic series, as I said in my thumbnail, is this, The Shadow of the Wind, which happens to be an ode to readers as well as literature in general, I think. So let's get started. I'm so excited to talk about this book and about this author. Carlos Ruiz Zafón is a Spanish author born and bred in Barcelona, and it shows. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's dive into the mysterious and enchanting world of The Shadow of the Wind. So this book was first published in 2001, and it was translated shortly after into many different languages because it was a success worldwide. I remember people raving about it when I was in school, and it's been described by Stephen King as a real novel. There's a little quote in the back that I'm going to try to translate loosely. This is a real book, one of those splendid novels full of plot twists and secrets where even subplots have subplots. Wonderfully entertaining. So yeah, that describes it well. But other than that, we can call this a gothic mystery, a little bit of magic realism, coming of age, historical fiction book. So if you're into any of that, fantasy-ish sort of thing, you will like it. It's really not fantasy, it's more like an abundant use of figurative language. The novel is set in 1945 in post-Civil War Barcelona, and the city's bleak smog conveys that well. So you get a sense of what it's like to have a literal and figurative smoke in the air. So the plot follows Daniel Simperi and his father, who owns a bookstore and is a book lover, tries to help him get through the loss of his mother, which, by the way, this book made me cry in the first page. So we follow Daniel and his father to the cemetery of forgotten books, which in and of itself sounds amazing. But when we get there, it's even better. We go through this secret labyrinth in the heart of Barcelona, little streets that no one goes to, and we go underground and we get to this enchanted place. And when we get there, as per tradition, you have to choose a book. So Daniel is going through the aisles looking at the books, and this book kind of lights up, basically chooses him. And this book is called Shadow of the Wind, and it's by an author called Julian Carax. And he takes this book, and now he's responsible for that book. He needs to get to know it and its author and its story, and he needs to care for it. He's going to be the guardian of that book. It's very important. Pay attention to this. So as we carry on, Daniel grows up, and we see people coming and going. There's a lot of characters in this book. Each of them symbolize a different thing. As I said, this is an ode to literature itself, and I think all the genres that Zafón liked. So we see a lot of familiar names. We see Alexandre Dumas, Honoré Balzac, Don Quixote, and the lady in white, the woman in white, which he repeats multiple times until you get it. So there's so many little clues. If you like literature, you will know. From Greek mythology to modern mysteries, and everybody. He covers all sorts of genres that he himself was into, I suppose. Okay, so then we get to the main conflict of the book. As Daniel grows up, he becomes more obsessed with unraveling the mystery behind Carax and his works, because he discovers that someone is systematically destroying Carax's books. So somebody called the Smoker, I think would be the translation, is erasing the legacy of this author. And Daniel is determined to discover what's happening. So Julian Carax has a tragic love story with a character called Penelope Aldava. And we kind of see this story of the author become the story of the character itself, the main character. So Julian Carax and Daniel have a lot of parallel, a lot of comparative plot lines, if you will. There is, of course, Daniel gets a lot of help throughout the story. He's investigating the mystery of the author. Everyone's favorite character is this homeless guy who Daniel helps, and he becomes his friend, and he's called Furman. Furman is hilarious, so witty, very quotable, and basically everyone's favorite. But like all the characters in the story, he's also suffered immensible loss, and this ties into the context of the book. So we have a character called Fomero, who is the smoker guy. It would be translating in the he's a corrupt police officer. So we have good police officers and bad police officers. There's a lot of representation in this book. There's a blind character as well. But I don't want to spoil too much for you, so I'm going to stop with the plot line there. Let's go into the text. So the writing, lyrical, beautiful, poetic. In fact, I was about a page in, right after he made me cry, when I started suspecting that he could have been a musician. He's probably a musician. So I looked it up, and yes, Zafón is a composer. So it wouldn't be an overstatement if I called him a maestro of mystery. But let's carry on. So it's written in the first person from Daniel's POV. You have these beautiful, vivid descriptions, Gothic descriptions of Barcelona and all the places that you will try to visit when you're there, if you're lucky, and you'll see all the dragons that Zafón loved so much. But you also have so many quotable reflections that stay with the reader. I'm going to read a few to you guys because it's just remarkable. So one of them that really stayed with me is, time goes faster the more hollow it is. Lives with no meaning go straight past you, like trains that don't stop at your station. Just so many quotes about reading and about books that it's hard to pick one. I'm going to let you take your own from that. But one of them that I liked was this: I was raised among books, making invisible friends in pages that seemed cast from dust and whose smell I carry in my hands to this day. Just so beautiful. So if we go back to the motifs, we have a wealth of themes and motifs, other than Barcelona itself, who's a character, and also, as well as its Gothic architecture. We have the post-war literal and figurative smoke in the air. So we also have the strong theme of coming of age, so a constant search of one's identity and what makes you you and how you spend your time in life. It's a really profound book in that way. There's love and there's loss. Everyone's lost something, if not because of the war, because of life itself. And another significant theme is the impact of the past on the present and the importance of history with capital H. So this takes me to the context of the book. So it is set in Franco's oppressive regime. So 1945, you had Franco's regime in Spain. And you see a lot of characters who suffered because of this regime and have been impacted because of this oppressive, authoritative, tyrannical government. At its core, The Shadow of the Wind is a tribute to the power of literature, an homage to literature. But the subtext of this text is so profound because it is about erasing history itself. So we have libraries that are in danger because people have very little money, so they don't have any money to spend on books. And that's a theme in the book. The importance of history and how historical events, which he mentions so many, from the French Revolution to the Cuban Revolution, he is into history and it shows, hence a historical fiction. Even when it was published, it was historical fiction. It was published in 2001 and is set in 1945. So he is highlighting history and the importance of keeping it alive through personal and public libraries. At least that's what I got. This really hit home because I just recently read about this curator that used to work for a museum in the London's Bloomberg district, and he was selling all sorts of artifacts online illegally, like on eBay and whatnot. And this museum holds collections that range from Egyptian mummies to squirrels burying 12th century Chinese poetry, as well as masks created by indigenous peoples of Canada. So this is just my worst nightmare realizing itself, this sort of priceless history that we lose due to a number of reasons, including greed, neglect, not to mention the ones destroyed intentionally. From the Library of Alexandria to the ones being destroyed today by some war or civil unrest, these are our collective nightmares as lovers of literature, and clearly Zafón knew this. Even though the message is not hammered in your head, that is the subtext of this text. At its core, it's about storytelling, it's about people, it's about history. So, who's this book for? Well, The Shadow of the Wind is a masterful blend of gothic mystery, historical fiction, wrapped in the allure of magical realism. So if you're into any of those, you might enjoy it. Or if you're a person, you might enjoy it. A person on the planet Earth. I think it's for everyone, honestly. This is for everyone. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. I would like to hear your opinions. If you have read it, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments and what was your favorite part, your favorite quote, your favorite character. I have thoroughly enjoyed reading this book again, and I am trying to pace myself. I like to read many books at once, and I've been trying to keep this book to about 20 pages a day because I want to space it out for the month of May, June, because it is set in the beginning of summer, so it feels coherent to do so. But thank you so much for staying. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.